The talking drum roared across the red earth village, their rhythms rolling like distant thunder, summoning every ear to the palace square. From the farmlands, the river banks, from the cooking fires, people came, men with dust on their feet, women with pestles still in their hands, children darting between legs to see what the commotion was about. On the raised platform before the palace gates, Chief Adetayo stood in his flowing agbada of deep indigo, the embroidery shimmering gold in the evening sun. His broad chest rose proudly as he held up the small bundle in his hands. Behold, Folake, the light of my house. His voice rang like a gong, steady and full. A cheer erupted, a wave of voices screaming and clapping hands. Older women swayed and chanted blessings. May her feet walk on smooth paths. May her life be long and her hands bring peace. But not all hearts rejoiced. At the edge of the crowd, 3 men stood with arms folded. Bamidele, the eldest of the chief's younger brothers, his lips curled as though he had tasted bitter kola. Delili, lean and sharp-eyed, whose fingers drummed impatiently against his thigh. And Wale, the youngest, his jaw tight, eyes dark with something colder than mere disappointment. When the crowd dispersed, and night wrapped the village in the scent of palm oil fires, the brothers came to the chief's private chamber. The flickering candle threw long shadows on the walls as the brothers sat, uninvited, on the carved stools opposite Adetayo. Bamidele's voice was the first to break the silence. Each word clipped and heavy. A daughter, Adetayo, the firstborn of the chief, is a girl. Her name will rot in the dirt before it even sits on the tongues of storytellers. My sons will be warriors, men whose name will be sung for generations. What will yours be? A woman's name that no warrior will bother to remember. Aisha, Folake's mother, was in the corner rocking the tiny child in her arms. Her eyes flashed like polished obsidian at Bamidele's words, but she said nothing. Jelili leaned forward, his thin lips stretching into a mocking smile. Brother, take a second wife. Do it before the ancestors themselves begin to question you. Give us a real heir, a boy who can stand before the council without shame. The chief's gaze did not waver. His voice was calm but carried the weight of iron. Folake is my heir. The ancestors blessed me with her, and the land will know her as my blood, my pride, my firstborn. She will sit where I sat when I am gone. The room thickened with tension. Aisha's grip tightened on her baby, as though her arms alone could shield Folake from the storm of scorn swirling in the room. Bamidele's nostril flared. Jelili's smirk slipped into a frown, and Wale, who had been silent all this while, rose to his feet, his voice low but venomous. We will not bow to a girl. His words slithered through the air like a snake. The 3 brothers turned and walked out, the sound of their sandals fading into the night. Aisha looked at her husband, her brow creased with worry. They will never forget this, she whispered. Adetayo placed a hand on her shoulder. His voice was softer now, but it carried an unshakable conviction. Then let them remember, for the light that shined through Folake will be too bright for their shadows to swallow. Outside, the drums had gone silent, but the echo of that day would not fade. The seasons turned, and the little bundle Chief Adetayo once held high grew into a young woman whose mind was as quick as the Hamilton wind. Folake's eyes sparkled with curiosity. Her laughter was like rain on dry earth, and in the village school her name was spoken with respect by her teachers. She topped her class year after year, her handwriting neat as woven cloth, her answers swift and certain. Yet, no matter how brightly she shone, the shadows cast by her uncles never lifted. At festivals, when masquerade danced and the air was thick with the scent of roasted yam and palm wine, her cousins stood in the center of the praise. The elders clapped their shoulders, blessing them as sons of promise. Their every small achievement trumpeted as though it were the return of an age-old hero. When Folake's turn came, her accomplishments were met with silence, or worse, scorn. Scholarship? Jelili scoffed one afternoon when the village elders congratulated her for earning a place at the state's most prestigious secondary school. He waved a dismissive hand. Book knowledge will not cook a man's meal. Can it fetch water from the stream? Can it keep a husband warm? Ah, my brothers, the chief is wasting his cowrie shells. Laughter rippled among his companions, but each word landed on Folake's heart like a stone dropped in a calabash of water, rippling, bruising, and sinking deep. That night the moon sat low and golden, casting long shadows over the compound. Folake slipped out to the back of the house where the air smelt of earth and the soft hum of night creatures filled the silence. She sat on a wooden stool, her hands limp in her lap, the silver light catching the tear track on her cheeks. In her mind, Jelili's words replayed again and again, like a pestle grinding into her spirit. She wondered if her uncles were right. Perhaps all her hard work was like building a clay house in the rain. It will melt away when life's storm comes. The soft sound of footsteps reached her ears. Her mother, Aisha, stepped into the moonlight, her wrapper tied tightly around her, her face shadowed with both strength and tenderness. Without a word, she sat beside her daughter and held out a small, worn leather-bound journal. The cover was faded, the edges frayed, but the pages smelled faintly of camphor and old palm oil. "This was mine," Aisha said, her voice low but steady. "When I was your age, I wrote in it every day. My dreams, my anger, my victories. I wrote them all. It reminded me that my story belongs to me, not to those who wish me small." She placed the journal in Folake's hand, her gaze locking with her daughter's. "They want you broken. Then rise, write your own story." Something in Folake's chest stirred, a small ember under the ashes. She clutched the journal as though it were a shield. From the shadows, another voice emerged. It was Jide, her childhood friend, had been waiting, hesitant to intrude. He stepped forward, his lean frame outlined in the moon's glow, his smile warm, yet tinged with concern. "Folake," he said softly, "you are the future. Not because of what you will do for them, but because of who you are. And I will stand with you, even if the whole village stands against you." Folake looked between the two people who believed in her the most, and for the first time in weeks her lips coiled into a small determined smile. Somewhere far off, the night drums began to beat, slow and deep, like the heartbeat of the land itself. She would rise, and she would not rise quietly. The oil lamps burned low, their flames trembling against the clay walls. Outside, the crickets sang, but inside Chief Adetayo's private chamber, the air felt heavy, like the moment before rain. Chief Adetayo moved to the great wooden doors and slid the thick iron bolt into place. The sound was final and sharp. "Come," he said quietly to Folake and her mother Aisha. His voice was calm. His eyes were not. They burned with something between anger and defiance. From beneath his leopard skin stool, the chief dragged out an old iron chest. Its surface was carved with the sacred markings of their ancestors, symbols that no one dared touch without permission. His hands shook, not because he was weak, but because of the storm rising inside him. He opened the chest and pulled out a rolled parchment, sealed with red wax and stamped with the kingdom's royal seal. "I have gone to the High Judge," he said slowly, his voice steady. "I have written my will. Every company I own, every cocoa farm, every piece of land my father left for me, it all belongs to you, Folake, and to you, Aisha." Aisha's eyes widened, her hand flew to her mouth. "Adetayo, your brothers, they will not allow this." He gave a dry laugh, one without joy. "Allow? They believe a female child is no better than dust. They will call this witchcraft. They will say no man in his right mind would leave his wealth to a woman, let alone two." He bent over the chest again and pulled out another parchment, this one looking exactly like the first. "This," he said, holding it up, "is the decoy of the will." Folake frowned. "Decoy?" "Yes," he said, his voice dropping to a whisper. "It looks the same, but at the bottom in the smallest writing it says, 'If any man contests my will, or if my daughter is denied her birthright, then all my property will be sold and every penny given to the leper colony at Oyo." Folake gasped. "Father, this will make them furious." Chief Adetayo placed both hands on her shoulders, gripping her firmly. His gold bracelets clinked like chains in the quiet room. "Let them be furious. Let them rush to the court thinking they can win. They will not know the truth." He leaned in close, his voice low. "Because the real will, the one the judge approved, is hidden far away with the oracle of Ife. She will keep it sealed until the right time." A sudden sharp knock slammed against the door. "Brother," Bamidele's voice oozed through the cracks. "The elders demand your presence now." Chief Adetayo's eyes hardened to stone. He turned back to Folake. "Remember, my daughter, when the time comes, go to the oracle. Break the seal in front of everyone and let the whole village see that the child they called useless is the one chosen to carry my name." The pounding on the door grew louder, but inside Chief's chamber, a new fire had already been lit, one that no uncle could easily put out. It happened faster than anyone could believe. Only a few weeks after Chief Adetayo had shown his will to Aisha and Folake, tragedy struck. The day began bright, with the smell of roasted plantain drifting through the village. By evening, a messenger came running, his wrapper loose around his waist, his face pale with fear. An accident, he panted. The chief's car, it overturned on the old Oyo road. Aisha's knees gave way. Folake caught her before she fell. The words sounded so unreal, like hearing the sky had fallen into the river. By nightfall, the drums of mourning beat across the village. Women wailed in the palace courtyard, tearing at their wrappers. Men sat with heads bowed, shaking their kola-nut-stained fingers. The chief's body was laid in state, his face calm as though he had only gone to sleep. But grief had no time to breathe. Before the last morning song ended, the chief's brothers came. They did not come with condolences. They came with sharp eyes and sharper tongues. Bamidele stepped forward, his agbada sweeping the dust. "Hand over the properties," he said flatly. "You know as well as we do, a girl cannot inherit their father's properties." Aisha rose slowly to her feet. Her eyes were red from crying, but her voice did not shake. "The will is clear. Everything belongs to Folake." Jelili let out a short, cruel laugh. "The court will laugh at you. No judge will side with a woman. You will be left with nothing." Folake felt her blood rise. She remembered her father's hands on her shoulders, his voice telling her to stand. She stepped forward, her gaze locked on Jelili's. "Try," she said. For a moment, silence gripped the room. The uncle stared at her as if surprised that the girl they had dismissed for years could stand before them like a warrior. Wale's lips coiled. "You have courage, miss. Let's see if it fits you when the land is ours." They turned and left, their sandals kicking up dust, their laughter drifting back like smoke. But as their shadows disappeared into the night, Folake felt a strange strength settling in her chest. The storm has come, and she would not run from it. The period following Chief Adetayo's passing was marked by significant conflict and tension. Bamidele, Jelili and Wale stormed the court with expensive lawyers and louder lies. They told the elders Folake was a puppet in her mother's hands. They claimed the chief had been bewitched. They whispered in market stalls, bribed officials, and spread stories that made Aisha weep in silence. But Folake had her father's fire and his plan. On the final day of the hearing, the court was packed. Elders in fine wrappers sat shoulder to shoulder with young traders, curious to see if a girl could truly stand against the power of men. The judge's voice was sharp. "Where is your proof, girl?" Folake walked to the center, her steps steady, her eyes on her uncle's. Slowly, she lifted the sealed parchment the oracle of Ife had guarded. Gasp filled the room. The wax bore the chief's royal stamp. "This," she said, her voice like sharpened steel, "is my father's true will. It says, every coin, every grain of land, every farm belonged to me. If anyone tries to take it, the entire estate will go to the leper colony at Oyo." The judge's brow rose. Murmurs swept the room like a wave. Bamidele's face darkened. Jelili's jaw tightened, and Wale clenched his fist. Folake's gaze swept across them. "You'd get nothing if you steal from us. Nothing." The gavel struck. The decision was final. Folake had won. Shame followed the brothers like a shadow. They slunk out of the courtroom that day, heads low, the whispers of the village stinging their ears. But Folake was not done. She poured her strength into the empire her father left behind. She expanded the cocoa plantations, opened trading routes her uncles had never dreamed of, and built schools where girls could learn for free. When drought struck, she used her wealth to bring food and water to every household. Men who once said a woman's hands could not feed a village now stood in line, waiting for the rice she distributed. And while Folake built, her uncle's sons squandered their inheritance on gambling, wine, and empty pride. Years later, when the once proud Bamidele came with hollow eyes and trembling hands, he knelt before her. Folake, please help me. Folake reached out into her pouch and pressed a single coin into his palm. Her voice was calm, but her words cut deep. Let the world see, she said, how a woman's mercy feeds a man. That day the people sang a new song, not of warriors with spears, but of a woman whose pen and courage conquered more than any army. Folake's name was remembered in every market, every farm, and every schoolyard. Mothers told their daughters her story. Fathers told their sons never to underestimate the strength of a woman. The moral of the story: he who despises a seed may one day eat from his tree. Value every child, boy or girl, for you do not know which one the ancestors has chosen to carry your name beyond the grave.